Look, on your screen, it's a stat, it's a metric, no, it's super data. All right, super data, able to make a business decision in a single bound. Do you have super data? I think most of you here have super data, and that's what I'm going to talk about today, is how to unlock the superpowers in your data. So why should you unlock the superpowers in your data? Most of you, all of you here are in the data business. You've got superpowers in your data. How do you start to unlock them and unleash them for client value? And why is it so important now than ever? Because there are more people in the data business today than ever before. There are more people who've never been in the data business today than ever before. There are whole startups full of people who've never been in the data business who are in the data business before. Now, I'm not saying startups in general don't know how to be in the data business. We saw some awesome ones today, but some of them only know the last thing about the data business, which is you could make money at it. But some of them have a little challenge with what's the data. So at InfoCommerce, I'm going to share a client confidentiality here. Worked with a client who's no longer in business, and you'll understand why after you hear the story. They were a little disruptive, they were a little visionary, they had this cool little business model they were going to do, they were going to get in the middle of a space, and then they told us, and we're going to make the money off the data. I said, okay, what data? Well, the data we're going to make money off of. There was nothing there. You couldn't see it yet. They just knew that maybe they were going to make data. So those are the kind of people who could be distracting your clients, all right? There are more sources of data now than ever before. Big data, legacy data, dark data, micro data, whatever you want to call it. There are more sources of data, and that gets confusing. And your clients think they can manage it more. So for some reason, even though there's more data and there's more sources, more clients are starting to get into the data business. If you go to the Gartner Master Data Management Conference, they talk about how everybody should sell their data. That's going to be a very crowded world for those of us who are professional superheroes in the data business. So you've got to watch out for all these dynamics. So there's lots of different superpowers here. There's kind of the classic ones on top, and then there's probably the more niche players on the bottom. I didn't take this picture, but truth be told, I have all four of those figurines on the bottom there, including the dark black one there. That's Melt Man, incredible power to melt. So obviously there's a niche for every market here. But the superpower that we all have when your data gets used is you capture the value. So how do you capture the value for that client? So I'm going to talk about some general superpowers. There's lots and lots of superpowers out there. Somebody mapped them beautifully. So I'm going to talk about some, and I want to encourage you to discover them and sort of analyze them on your own here. So the number one, most important one, I think, is workflow. You are in the workflow. We are fond at InfoCommerce about talking about data that does stuff. So your data needs to do something. How close can you get to a client decision? The closer you are, the better. We heard some great folks today who are already embedded in that workflow, in that system. There's no UX like your client's UX, okay? How close can you get to that decision-making process? And if you can be in a market where there's multiple parties talking to each other about and using your data to make that transaction, that is a very sweet place to be, right? That is an extremely powerful place to be, where your yes-no answer makes a transaction happen. They don't worry about the methodology, they don't question the quality, they don't look at what the source is. You're in the middle of a party, multi-party situation. So get in that workflow. If you're not, find out how to fit it in there. Number two, big universality. You cover something. Whatever you cover, make it clearly defined, talk about that coverage, make it complete if you're in that part of the space. That offers, we heard a lot today about chaos and bringing order to this chaos, the chaos of somebody's market. How do you define it? Can you define it for that set of clients, okay? If you're in the market share business of some sort, then client X's share of Y market is X over Y. You got to define what that marketplace is in some way or another. Category, geography, type, whatever it is, but define that market and make it complete and take a stand. And if people can start to look at their market based on your definition, again, that's a superpower. Ownership. By Odin's beard out there, there's a lot of questionable tactics going on, especially in the cloud-based world where people are all of a sudden in the middle of exchanging data. They've got a cloud system, and they see data go by, and because they think they see it, it's theirs. Just because you see it, you can't always touch it, right? Just because you have it doesn't mean it's yours. In the data business, possession can be 0/10 of the law. So do you own this data or not, or have the rights to own it, or have some sort of licensing construction that allows you to capture that value? So do you own that data? That is a superpower. Dependability. It comes out all the time. It comes out on a regular basis. It's syndicated. Everybody's looking at the same stuff. You've got two people in the room, and one's got 9 and the other's got 12, and 3 of them don't match and they don't understand each other. By then the meeting's over. You have a dependable, standardized, syndicated way to look at it. And you have quality that you're proud of. Everybody's got quality. My dad used to say, that guy's got a lot of class, all low. So what kind of quality do you have? Now, basically, I've found there's 3 types of quality in the data business. There's good, there's great, and there's sucks. So stay above that line there. But you've got to have this quality that people depend on. And again, they're not looking back at your methodology. They're not asking you how you got there. That is a superpower. Governance. How well do you structure that data? What kind of strong taxonomies do you have? We're just talking now about a taxonomy structure that allows people to identify things, to disambiguate things. So when you look at the master data space, which is my particular passion, you look for common codes, right? A standard company hierarchy, some sort of category structure, and a country. So those are the 4 things I look for in a master data record: code, company, category, and country. And from there, those 4 horsemen give you strong structure that people can start to use to do the things that they need to do. And the most powerful superpower of master data is the ability to allow things to scale. So how do you do 10 of them to 100, to 1,000, to 1,000,000? You can't do that without good, strong master data and good, strong governance. And you got to get the right kind of personality folks in that part of the space, because they tell people no. No thinking out of the box with the governance group. It is or it is not. And that kind of foundational data gives you a lot of power. Integratable. Are you integratable? How else are you going to get into the workflow if you're not integratable? You either integrate or you disintegrate in the data world right now. So that means you need to be accessible. We heard about APIs. We heard about delivery mechanisms. What are those requirements that your clients have to get you into that workflow? This is past conceptual. This is past logical. You got to get physical. You got to get in there and find out what field maps to what. Where does that fit? So you got to get integratable. And truth. My final superpower here is truth. Do you have integrity? Do you have trust? Those are superpower names, right? Or are you corrupt? That's the way people describe data as well, right? So do you have truth? Do you recognize reality? And nobody's saying there's anything wrong with modeling some outliers on the side there, but your people know what is right and wrong. And you've got to be able to communicate that truth and present that objective reality to your clients so they can make those business decisions. And once you're there in an objective view, that's tremendous power. Now, every superhero's got its kryptonite, right? So what are the evil villains out there trying to beat down your superpowers? Verticalness is one. Siloed. Not being in a vertical, but being siloed. Nothing makes data nothing makes data weaker than being siloed, by being by itself. And people are really good at columns, okay? But they're not good at rows. They're not good at the horizontal part. I got 2 pieces of data. How do they match at this row level? That's where the confusion happens. So staying horizontal rather than vertical, because verticalness is kryptonite to a lot of databases. And the gonzo version of everything else I talked about. You're not in the workflow. You're not dependable. You don't have truth. Those things can kill you as well. And yourself in a lot of cases. So the biggest gap in the data business is the difference between the perceived value from a data publisher and what the value the client's really getting out of it, right? So that discussion, the client's usually right. You got to go to them and find out, okay, how are they really using it? Like I said about the workflow. How are you really getting into that decision-making process? How close can you get? So, to sum it up here, how do you start to discover your superpowers? Maybe having a meeting like that. I'd suggest bringing HR. But talk to your people. Your people know. Your people know. Russell and I interview companies all the time. We talk to the CEOs. We talk to the VPs. That's great. That's wonderful. We want to get down in the weeds. We want to talk to the product people who had to put that together. And we absolutely want to talk to the technical people on the operations side who are making that physical stuff happen. So another client confidentiality I will breach here, talking about a group that we're dealing with right now where there were 4 parties together and they were all pooling their data to create this common deliverable. And there's a little bit of competitiveness, so they were deciding what stuff to put in and what stuff not to put in. And one of them, this is a client verbatim, so it's okay for me to say this, but one of the parties said, we're not giving them that fucking attribute. You want that guy. You want that attitude. You want that person who knows that that attribute is really valuable. And that's where you start to find your superpowers. And talk to your clients. Actually, listen to your clients. Never, I've been 30 years in the sales business, I still remind myself, go in and shut up. Say, that's wonderful. Tell me more. But listen to them, and nothing more exciting than them pointing to the screen and saying, see that? That's your data. Hear that. Learn that. And you can bring that to a lot of other clients because they're dying to tell you how well they use your data. Little shameless plug, Russell and I do this. We can help you discover those superpowers, but most importantly, while you're here, you're with a lot of people in a lot of different verticals. Get horizontal, not literally, but get horizontal with each other and share your adventures. Share your adventures of what your data is, why you've got a superpower, and I think you'll get a lot out of this conference. So I just want to share these thoughts with you. Thank you very much. Superheroes.